It was the winter of 1796, the 20th year of King Jeongjo's reign. In a small village nestled at the foot of Mount Gumhyun in Gyeongsang Province, snow fell early and lingered long. The villagers of Saryongcheong were used to hard winters, but that year something colder than ice crept in, not through the wind or the water, but through the shadows. They say the first sign was the dog that wouldn't stop barking. Then came the child, who began speaking in his sleep, and finally the miller's boy, who claimed he saw a man with no eyes standing at the edge of the forest, watching the village from dusk till dawn. But before the whispers turned to fear, the first death came. His name was Yun Seok, a humble farmer, quiet, honest, 40 years old, never married. One morning, Yun Seok collapsed in the fields while spreading ash to thaw the soil. His body was cold long before the others found him. They carried him to the village shrine and began preparing for burial. But that night, Yun Seok opened his eyes. He was not breathing, he was not blinking, but he sat up. The villagers screamed. His brother fainted. The head shaman, an old woman named Granny Dalhwa, ordered everyone to leave the shrine, and when she entered alone, Yun Seok turned to her and spoke. "I saw him, the one in black. He called my name, but then he stopped, and he said, 'Not yet.'" Granny Dalhwa knew what it meant. A Sajik, a death reaper, had come for Yun Seok, then left. Such things were unheard of. Once the name is called, the thread of life is cut. But Yun Seok was still breathing. The shaman fell silent for days. Meanwhile, Yun Seok returned home, but he was different. He no longer ate meat, he no longer laughed, he avoided sunlight, and most of all, he never slept. One by one, strange things began to happen. Dogs whined when he passed, mirrors cracked when he looked into them, and the village children whispered that Yun Seok's shadow moved, even when he stood still. Then, on the 7th night after his return, someone knocked on the shaman's door. It was Yun Seok. He opened his mouth, but his voice sounded 1,000 years old and shook like leaves in a winter wind. "I think something followed me back. I hear footsteps behind me when I walk. I see things others don't. There's a man with a mask. He stands at the end of my dreams. He's not a Sajik, he's something else." Granny Dalhwa performed a blood reading, an old rite from the southern mountains. When she cut his palm, no blood flowed, only black mist. "You should not be here. Your name has been erased from both books." In Joseon belief, the Book of Life belongs to the Jade Emperor, and the Book of Death to the King of the Underworld. No soul should be unrecorded. But Yun Seok had become a ghost in flesh. His existence was now a tear between worlds. That night, the real horror began. A woman went missing. Found at dawn, lying in the snow, her eyes open and mouth frozen mid-scream. No wounds, no footprints, just a single black feather left on her chest. The next night, a child vanished from his bed. Then a cow died standing up, eyes wide in terror. And Yun Seok began dreaming of a cave where whispers rose from the ground like smoke, where he heard the same phrase over and over again. "Return what was taken, or we will come for all." Granny Dalhwa summoned the village elders. She said, "There is no reaper for him anymore. The Sajik that came made a mistake, and now the Shadow Reaper walks in his place. They called it Hunmukja, the Black Collector, an ancient entity before the books. It does not reap, it consumes. Only one choice remained. Yun Seok must return willingly. He must journey to the Valley of the Still, a place where the veil between life and death is the thinnest, and offer himself back. The villagers escorted him at dawn. He wore white robes, carried no food, and walked barefoot into the snow. He never looked back. They say the winds howled that night like 1,000 voices crying out in hunger. And when morning came, the village was quiet again. No more deaths, no more shadows. But Granny Dalhousie said one thing before she died. Yun Seok was not taken, he made a deal. And sometimes, just before winter ends, people claim to see a man in white walking the ridge of Mount Gumhyun. He has no shadow, and he leaves no footprints. But if he stops in front of your door, don't open it, because he knows the cost of coming back, and he always comes for balance.